Today, I want to highlight the positives, the amazing progress and development of the tax system. I started in the tax business about a decade ago, and I can attest the tax department and system do not resemble anything close to what it is today. Let me highlight the achievements and developments that I regard as the most impactful. First, the abolishment of the estimated tax regime, creating a level playing field, eliminating underpayment of tax, and expanding the tax base, and streamlining productivity in the tax department. Well, probably the most impactful is digitalization, e-filing and e-payment of taxes, online registration of businesses. Now we compete with Singapore. We compete with the best of the best. It takes 14 business days to complete a registration for 3 departments: MOC, GDT, Ministry of Labor. 14 business days. It used to take months and months. You do the MOC, 3 months, you'd hand off to the GDT, 2 months, Ministry of Labor, 2 months, all done in 14 business days. Great achievement. Congratulations on that as well. Educating the tax base. I think in the beginning, when I first started, I was wondering whether people really understood tax that works for me. So having the education, the classes, the seminars, licensing of the tax agents to make sure that they're qualified, that you're dealing with qualified people that have some sort of certification, has been a big achievement. So these are great achievements that I believe are worth noting today. So congratulations, Your Excellency, and the GDT for these milestones, and keep up the great work.
I'm very honored to be here, to be able to speak on the first tax forum of Amcham. So I'm the most happy guy that you organize this, because it's easy for me. I rather want to see more voluntary compliance than forced compliance. My goal is to make life easy, to make taxpayer to pay tax easy. The topic today is about tax update. I'm sure 90% of you are aware of all the tax updates so far, because I see many faces already attend a seminar, attend online courses. A new draft of taxation law is already at the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Justice reviewing some of the related articles that involve with the criminal code, and also the review of some of the clauses that go along with the other law as well. Over the past 10 years, I focus on human resource development. If you don't know how to read the financial statement, train them. Thanks to the approval of the government, I managed to recruit some of the staff, mostly are really qualified tax auditor, a tax manager from the private sector as well. So since the past 10 years, we never fail of the tax collection in any year. Even the last 2 years of the pandemic, 99% of the country in the world, they're collecting under budget. In 2020, the Ministry of Finance refocused our budget down to 65% collected. But the matter of fact, we collect 101% of that year. So this year, so far, the revenue we collect is already more than 95%. You guys need a clear regulation, clear law before you decide to expand your investment or before you try to make new investment. we will have to show potential investor to come to invest in Cambodia that we have the transparent law in this country. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, would like to thank you and wish you a productive forum, and I will come back soon. Thank you.
Congratulations to the Tax Department for listening to and also finalizing the majority of the updates from the Tax Working Group, which is under the auspices of Oknha Sok Paset. I think the main and key update is the interest rate on loans between related parties. Another key point that was finalized between the Tax Working Group and the GDT was to do with refundable customer deposits, where the Tax Department clarified that a refundable customer deposit would not be subject to 10% VAT. And so following the Tax Working Group meeting, the GDT issued notification 10979, which basically says that a Cambodian enterprise which enters into a loan with a related party may determine the interest rate themselves based on a mutually agreed interest rate. So that could be 0%, could be 1%, could be 2%, provided, and here is the key point, provided that the enterprise has the following documents to support the loan, and those documents being a loan agreement. Second is a business plan or current forecasted financial statements at the time of the borrowing. And then finally, an approval from the board of directors of those enterprises that are not single member private limited companies.
Is there an intent to enforce the registration with those that are overseas that have not yet registered that should?
We try to encourage all the non-resident taxpayer who have made the threshold and not register to make a register. And also the GDT have different sources of information where e-filing, we require the medium taxpayer or light taxpayer to file the tax return with the information like purchase and sale record. And if we found that any non-tax resident and non-resident taxpayer who have made a threshold, turnover threshold, and did not come to register, then we try to contact them through tax agent or email them, or sometimes we have a Zoom meeting in order to invite them to make a simplified VAT register.
I was actually quite a big fan when His Excellency introduced the lucky drawer to put the invoices on the app, which I think was a great idea, and I hope it's being successful. And is this something where also, if we have those non-residents and we have those invoices, can we? Not that I want to win a car or a motorbike, but I'd like to see those entities registered. So is that still possible to have those invoices on the app?
The instructed and also the initiative of the Excellency Minister to create the app for all our Cambodian, not only taxpayer, but also all Cambodian, also all foreigner who stay in Cambodia. They can take the photo of the invoice, and send to us. So we have our working group working on that. So we have around more than 50 people to check every invoice. So each invoice, we have to see whether that company or that even is a local one or is abroad. But we see all the invoices that they have already registered or not. And if they do not register, as the Excellency Ken Sambath mentioned, we have many ways to contact them.
Those people in the system, they must come to register with us. So the encouragement of the lucky draw, there will be a 2 Mazda pickup truck for lucky one and dozen of motorbike, telephone, the TV, and so on. So we encourage young people, students, all the people, even all of you here can upload the invoice. You don't need to buy a lottery. You go to dining and restaurant, it's free to upload. So you help the country by submitting the document to the GDT and to make sure your VAT are in a good place in GDT, in the treasury, for us to buy vaccine, to spend for defense, to spend for security, education, and social. We always request the government to have the internet gateway to manage the online sale. We have about 60 e-commerce registration to pay tax, but there's thousands of people in Cambodia selling online, don't come to register yet. I have seen the news that Ministry of Commerce, they encourage those online people to come to register at the Ministry of Commerce. So I already request the Ministry of Commerce to provide me a list. So I will get a good service to register tax for them. Because some people I can see, they sell online. They make 100,000 a day without paying any income tax at all. So you guys who comply with the tax law suffer. For example, Alibaba, they sell a lot of goods here. They don't register here before, but now they are good taxpayers also. But before, they don't. They sell without a VAT, without income tax or whatever. Can the local compete with those people? Cannot. But now they come to have a fair playing field, So they must register here in order for them to sell. But now we don't have a proper control mechanism, a internet gateway. You control the IP. So that's it. But now we encourage those e-commerce to come to register. And I hope more and more will come.
Should the VAT apply to director fees for a Cambodian company with directors overseas?
It depends on the transaction is whether she's a supply the service from overseas in the concept of the what they call supplies, order, supply, and delivers. This is a main concept of the VAT levy on the non-resident supply to resident Cambodia. So if he work from overseas, he need to pay the VAT. But he is the company employee. It means that director, he work for the company, he had to pay 20% on the what they call the tax on salary for non-resident. He provides service to the company as employee. He may not pay the VAT. Yeah.
Director service can be two types. One is paying salary, which they pay with, if they are non-resident, they pay 20% salary tax, very clear. But some of them, independent director, they may staying overseas. They just attend the meeting virtually 4 times a year. So for that, they are paying director meeting fee. So that some of the company is paying them, withhold them 14% withholding tax. But just now, based on Excellency Sambath, your reply is if that person achieve the threshold, the GDT want them to register as we call the EWAT. So, but this is Excellency is more for their internal, your own company, because you appoint foreign director, which is the same group, to enhance the governance.
Does the GDT intend to extend taxation for non-resident e-commerce providers to include corporate tax registration? In other words, profit tax eventually?
For the time being, I think it's the best already if they agree to pay, to collect the VAT for us. It's hard to impose those non-residents to come and pay the corporate tax here. You name any country that impose. I think recently just India and the rest, Australia and so on, they do not impose a non-resident for overseas to pay corporate tax here yet. But if our neighboring country can manage to encourage those people to come and pay their corporate tax here, it would be good. I'm happy also if they are willing to pay, no problem.
So my question is, what are the new tax incentives for foreign companies and investors?
Actually, VAT, when you purchase goods and services locally, you have to pay, but for the QIP, they can enjoy incentive and the sum from the VAT that you purchase locally. This is for QIP. And also, as I remember, in the law investment, also they have alternative. They choose a special depreciation, and also they can the deduction more than they actually they paid. For example, they can deduction up to 200% of the expenses. They buy 100, they can deduct up to 200, and also has a special incentive. For QIP also, if they invest in the innovation and the improve the what they call IT system, to help the Cambodian to give job to poor people, to employee also, they can deduct up to, they pay 100, they can deduct up to 150.
In the Cambodian context, which approach should taxpayers determine is the most appropriate, and what are the benefits and risks of each approach?
Like with many things in transfer pricing, it depends. Very much depends on the taxpayer's facts and circumstances. So, for example, a manufacturing entity who purchase materials from their related parties predominantly and sell to related parties predominantly, but don't really have any other types of transactions such as loans, such as service agreements, such as royalties, it would be appropriate for them to use the whole of entity method, because the whole of entity method would look at the operating margin or the net cost plus margin against other similar type comparable companies in the region. Thus, you're looking at your most significant transactions and it's coming out in the wash from an operating margin perspective. So it's a good way to judge a manufacturing entity. Another type of entity that comes to mind is a financial institution, for example. Now, a financial institution may choose to also use the whole of entity method. However, while that makes you compliant, it maybe doesn't give you the best tax audit defense, because you will likely have a number of related party loans, a number of royalties, some IT support services usually, and other technical support services. So from that perspective, you may wish to look at your most significant transactions and benchmark your royalties, for example, or your services, or your loans, potentially all three if you're willing to pay the relevant cost to your advisor, because that will give you better protection in a tax audit because it's more comparable. So it's really a question of compliance versus tax audit defense, both make you compliant. One method versus the other may give you a greater level of tax audit defense. But like many things in life, it sometimes just comes down to cost, right? So it depends how much you're willing to pay from the initial compliance. But just always remember that sometimes it's better to actually have done the right thing up front rather than have to be on the back foot when the GDT come and audit you.
What advice would you give to taxpayers in Cambodia who wish to demonstrate that there is some substance behind their management and technical service and that it's in line with the arm's length principle?
Mostly, in order to comply with the transfer pricing regulation, you have to two-step very quickly. The first one, you have to prove that the service provided is actually incurred. And another question, another important you have to consider is that you have to compare whether the independent enterprise in the similar circumstance would need that such services. If that independent enterprise did not need that kind of service, it's not the service, even you pay for it, it's not chargeable. This is the first step. And the second step, you have to pricing at the arm's length. But mostly the question, the issue of the intra-group service is you have a cost center that provide the service to many related parties. And that you have to allocate the cost of that service. This is also the issue to be considered, is that some service are duplicated. Yeah. Financial, legal, sometimes the local company, they already perform that service. They can do it by itself. But they also pay for that service, the same service to the related party.
With respect to the loan agreement in particular and the business plan, do you have a view on the level of detail or the essential requirements that documentation should have to be compliant from a GDT perspective?
It depends on your company by your own to do so, whether how big your company is, or what transaction you might be transact with others, So what is your budget, financial budget, on your company to do so, So it depends on you, I can say, if someone, come to ask how many papers to do, on the business plan, but I will say, if you cannot even, how many papers you do on your company, how can you do the transfer pricing arm's length, So it depends, what you want to do, how big your company is, what is your budget financial is, So, and I will say that the new notification that you just mentioned is very soft approach from the GDT that gives you more easier way, to apply to the arm's length principle on the loan between related party.
What are the recent tax audit issues that you've seen with respect to your clients that are perhaps new or unique in your experience?
Let me say, I think from a client perspective, the first thing is I always tell clients there has to be a 3-pillar approach in terms of how they do their business. There's the bank statements, there's the tax returns, and there's your accounting records. Those have to equal. They have to equal. You can't have tax returns that don't equal your bank statements. You can't have bank statements that don't equal your accounting records. So accounting is becoming really important. And I think I had like to just mention, I think it's important also that we, as the GDT has done a great job in developing the tax system, we're going to have to do the same with the accounting as well. In terms of the audit issues, I think His Excellency made a point that he has taken professionals from the private sector. So I've been in this business 10 years, and I kind of remember when I first were going to audits. And yeah, there weren't people up to a degree of quality. It was easy for me to go through audits. It's not easy anymore. It's very hard. I'm an accountant. I have an accounting degree. And I'm a banker. I have corporate finance experience. But now I'm up against people that are really sharp, that have tools, that have spreadsheets, that are doing all kinds of analysis. And it's the net is very hard to get through. You have to be compliant.
If you think that auditor audit you wrongly, so you can appeal process. If I agree with auditor, I don't agree with you, or you have a lot of proof, then there's an appeal committee to at the ministry. If the Ministry of Appeal in the Ministry of Finance don't agree with you, you can file to court. You know, but there's a rare case that I don't compromise with that. As a tax agency here in Cambodia, I want a good perspective to my department as well, because I went to Europe, especially in Swedish. They have a survey of the people like the tax agency. More than 90% of people, they're happy with the tax agency. Come back to Cambodia, the other way around. 90% of the people don't like the tax people. I want to switch those perception into 90% of the taxpayer. They like tax official. They like tax agency as well.